10% of my life is being lived for God and 90% is being lived for myself. I was sort of like a fashionable Christian in a way, where my actions didn't back up my words. So if one of my friends said something bad about Christianity, I'd get offended, but there'd be no difference between my lifestyle and theirs. What I mean by that is I value the same things as them, whether it be womanizing, partying, or reputation and popularity, rather than focusing on things that Christians should do, which is like God, the relationship with God, and obviously like focusing on the studies. And that latter actually cost me. When I turned 18, I didn't get my initial grades to go to Durham to study marketing. And in fact, my two best friends are here tonight as well. Will, you definitely won't miss them, because the first one is Will, who's leading the worship, amazing job there. And the other one is a 6'7" Nigerian there, his family. And I think out of our group of friends, none of us got our initial grades to go to university, so I don't know what happened there, guys. So yeah, nonetheless, I went to Queen Mary's from there to study geography through clearing. And if any of you guys know me and you know geography, you'll definitely know we're not a compatible match, and if only will. So unsurprisingly, after 5 weeks, I dropped out of university, and this coincided with me breaking up with my girlfriend at the time. So safe to say it was quite a low point in my life. But for anybody here tonight that is going through a similar thing like that, and myself in that time, there is good news, because God is always close to the heartbroken. And in that situation, you can allow Him to be your strength, and that's what I did. I came to Him, I communed with Him, and He said, I asked Him 2 questions, and if I'm honest, I was quite angry when I came to Him. The first one was, why would you allow me to be in a relationship with women only for it to break? And the second one was, why did you allow me to go to university to study something you know I wouldn't follow through with? And basically then, he came back to me and told me the answer quite harshly. And he said to me, all your life you've been doing things that have been expected of you. You've never touched any of the dreams that I've placed in your heart. And that hit home with me, because we went to a very educational school where we were expected to go to university. And at that time, I definitely wasn't ready to go to university, and I definitely wasn't ready to study geography there. So he said to me, he took me back to my dreams when I was younger, and just like how I was a smart guy when I was younger, but I didn't focus enough on my education. I was also quite talented at football, but again, my focus was elsewhere, so I didn't dedicate enough time to it. He said to me, one more time, son, go for it, and I went for it, and 2 years later, a lot of things happened, but I ended up in America on an NCAA soccer scholarship, or football scholarship, and how you like it. And at this point in my life, I'd say that 50% of it was being lived for myself and my dreams, and 50% of it was being lived for God. My time in America was amazing, a wonderful time. I met some amazing people, it was a great experience for me. But I found myself in that time, out of all the things in America, the thing I was enjoying the least was the reason I was there, which was the football. And I decided after 4 months to come back home, because if I'm there for football and it's not working, then something's got to be wrong. So I communed with God again, and I was like, God, why is this been my passion? This is what I've loved for the last 2 years. What's going on? And I basically said, everybody's going to think I'm dropping out again, it's going to be so bad. But God said to me to focus less on what other people would say and more on what God wanted me to do. So I took a decision, I came home, and He blessed me again with a semi-professional trial. I think it's called Hall Church. And I found myself dreading training again. So football wasn't the problem in America, it was just football in general. I found myself dreading a 7 p.m. training session at 1 p.m. And if you're dreading something 6 hours before it actually happens and it's meant to be your passion, you've really got to question yourself there. But sometimes, guys, these things can be fear, and sometimes these things can be laziness. So I communed with God again, and He realised my fears. He told me it was time for me to let go of football. And football had taken me as far as He wanted it to. Using my testimony, I love to use the invisible staircase depiction. In our lives, we don't know what the next step is, what we need to do. Only God knows what the next step is, and we've got to trust that when we put our foot down, that it's going to be there. So for me, at the age of 19, that was football. And to be honest with you, I didn't really know what it was. I'd never been at a professional academy. As I said, I went to an educational school where everybody was like, just go to university, like, what are you doing? But I trusted God and didn't care about what anybody else did. And the thing is with the invisible staircase, it's only when you look back down the staircase is that you can understand why God made you take that step. So for me, when I had dreams of becoming a professional footballer, playing the Premiership, scoring for Spurs, God's plan for me as I look back down the staircase was always for me to come closer to Him through football. And I firmly believe that. At the same time as this was a confirmation for me with Hosea, was basically that I started Hosea, and it's because of a great church called Pagasa that helped me to develop my faith, and it's done so many things for me. I could talk about it for hours, but I won't. Just a physical representation of that generosity from that church. Everybody here in white, apart from one or two with this top on, they're all from that church, so they're all such blessings to me. So yes, just on to the concept of Hosea. It is to accentuate the light of Christ in believers through fashion. So in essence, you should be able to see, even before I open my mouth and preach the gospel to you, you should already be able to see from my actions that I'm a Christian. In the same way, our clothes aim to function in this way. Say, for example, a non-believer sees you with their clothes, they'll be able to, with Hosea's clothes, they'll be able to identify you as a Christian. This allows them to initiate a conversation with you, and you could possibly bring them to Christ. And so we like to see it as a tool to win the lost as well, and if that's ever happens, please let us know, because we'd love to show it off to everyone. And then the second point, the second concept of Hosea is to empower Christians. Matthew 5:14-16 is about the lighthouse, being a lighthouse for others. We know in this world there's so many changing opinions of what is wrong and what is right, but as Hosea's aim is to empower Christians to know that even though there's loads of changing opinions, we know that the word of God is true, and we cannot ever be persecuted for it. And then the third slide, the third part of this was the Worship Connect night, which I found most difficultly trying to explain in practice. But I found through my relationship with my mum, and she's been a business and entrepreneurship, a spiritual, and just a general lifestyle mentor for me. And I believe that shaped who I am today, and it's helped me to start this brand. But also with a few of these guys here tonight, I know some of you have had problems with university experiences, and I believe through my experiences I've been able to help them. So in essence, it's kind of like humbling yourself to understand, humbling yourself to learn through other people's experiences that you're currently going through, and humbling yourself to help others that are going through experiences that you've been through. I hope that makes sense. So it's kind of like be mentored and mentor. So on to my short word, guys. It's a very short word, and it's titled "You're Already Walking on Water," and it's based off Matthew 14 verses 25-33. To understand as Christians where our focus should be. So let's go straight into it. Verse 28. Lord, if it's you, Peter replied, tell me to come to you on the water. Jesus said, come, and Peter got down on the boat, walked on water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, Lord, save me. I just wanted to ask you guys to put yourself into Peter's shoes in that situation. Do you think you guys would be scared? I mean, I think it'd be perfectly understandable for you to be scared. After all, there you are walking on water, and then you start to sink. I think it'd be rational for you to start to fear for your life. But then I started to look at it from an outside point of view, and I started to think that Peter's fears are quite irrational. What I mean by this is, there he is walking on water with the creator of the universe, and the fact that he's walking on water is proof that he's walking on water with the creator of the universe. And then he starts to sink. Surely he would know that Christ would save him. I mean, at this point, when he's sinking, he should know that Christ is just there to save him. I mean, in our lives, we can be forgiven when we think that God is absent, and he might be, say for example, we're in a situation where it's a very bad situation, and we start to feel that Christ, or God isn't there, he's absent. Because we can't physically see him. But this wasn't the problem for Peter. He could just look up and see that Christ was there for him. And I believe that Jesus embodies this opinion that really Peter should have more faith. When he says, you have little faith, he said, why did you doubt? I believe that he's in this situation, he's got this rolling eye emoji face on. That's yet again, one of his disciples doesn't believe in his faith enough. But the problem with Peter in this situation is that he's focusing too much on the wind in his life, rather than on God, and rather on the blessing of actually walking on water. And I've been quite harsh with Peter here, and I must admit, but even for me, when I was setting up this worship night, I had my own wind. I was wondering whether you guys would even turn up tonight, if I was even ready to give a sermon like this. But the perfect remedy for any situation like this is to focus less on the wind in your life, less on yourself, and more on God and the fact that you're walking on water. So, in verse 32, after this, they climbed down the boat, the wind died down, then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." Not that they needed more evidence, though. Even before this appearance in the Bible of Jesus walking on water with Peter, the disciples had already seen him feed the 5,000, heal the blind man and the mute, raise the girl from the dead, and heal the sick woman, heal the paralyzed man, calm storms, restore 2 demon-possessed men, and heal the man with leprosy. But Jesus' disciples needed him to walk on water and save Peter, for them to give him the blue tick of verification that indeed he is the Son of God. And yet, again, maybe I'm being too harsh on them again, because even in our own lives, we've all experienced the power of God to take our situation from a negative one to a positive one. But then when normality is regimed, we can focus on too much on the wind in our life, rather than God and the blessings that he always brings us through. So guys, if there's any non-believers here tonight, whether on your Instagram live, whether you're here on the YouTube video, or you're here physically tonight, and maybe you're here doubting the power, maybe you're doubting the existence of God here, and I just wanted to say to you, that's okay. Even us Christians do sometimes. Even his disciple Peter did. But just like Peter, I urge you tonight, and ask him if you can walk in water with him. All the meantime, focusing on him, and not focusing on the wind on your life, not focusing on yourself, just focusing on him and the fact that you're walking on water. And just before I end, guys, I just wanted to ask 3 questions to you guys. They're quite funny, so not really. So for me, I've got a question for myself. Chris, do you focus on the fact that you've got a morning lecture at 9 AM, you're tired, you've been watching YouTube videos all night, so you've got like 5 hours of sleep, and the tube is just packed? Or do you focus on the fact that you get to go in and share memes with your best friend up until Oxford Circus? And I've got a picture there. It's a picture. There he is, that's my brother. We get to go together. The second one is to someone in this room, I don't know who. You focus on the fact that your boyfriend sometimes takes it a little bit too far, sometimes with jokes, that you just can't deal with it today. Or do you focus on the fact that he always brings you close to God and he always buys you food? And finally, for Peter, do you focus on the fact that the wind is blowing so hard that you're beginning to sink? Or do you focus on the fact that out of all the billions of humans that have existed, Christ has chosen you to walk on water with him? So it's all about perspective, guys. You're already walking on water.